Hello everybody, quick little floral tip today. I'm just going to show you a little technique that's quite commonplace now, and it's called reflexing. But essentially it's a form of modifying a flower, and I tend to modify my flowers a lot. I use petals as leaves and all sorts of things. So I just wanted to show you that it's not just roses that you can reflex your petals on. There's quite a variety of flowers that you can do this similar technique with. So let's go. I'll show you the rose first. So what's important when you're reflexing a rose is that you choose a rose that's quite soft and full already. You will not be able to do this with a tight bud, okay? There's too much pressure on the petal and you'll rip the petals. But for these ones, you can see I've got quite a lovely, it's just such a beautiful kind of cafe beige rose, absolutely gorgeous. It was actually in a bunch on its own with this antique. So I'm just starting for the bottom row, and you're just basically flipping the petal inside out, and just gently with your thumb just go in a circle, and you're just flipping each petal to expose the more inner rows. And these, as you get closer to the center, they will start to become a little bit more resistant, and that's totally fine. You don't want them all completely out. I actually like them to kind of graduate out from here anyway. So sometimes I just put my finger into that petal and just gently give it a little press out. And that way it looks like it's supposed to be that way, and it's not too manipulated that it looks just, you know, ridiculous. And maybe one more. So you can see that that's really opened up that rose now. Beautiful. Okay, and I wanted to show you that you can also do the same technique with a lisianthus. Now lisies are, you know, such a versatile, fabulous flower for the industry in so many ways. And you'll see this one has this gorgeous little bit of blush on it. But again, you can do the exact same with your lisies. And I think I show you this technique actually on another design called a floral cuff. So if you can find that in the library. Again, just going around to each little row of petals. The petals will be a little bit different with the lisies because they're not in the same sort of sequence. They're a bit more ruffled anyway. But you can see by doing that, I'm able to open up all the way to the center of the flower, and then you can essentially even pick off those little pollen sacs if you wanted to as well. But now you've essentially doubled the size of the lisianthus. Okay, you won't be able to do that with that little bud though. So beautiful. Got a really lovely ruffled flower that doesn't even look like a lizzie. You know, you'd be wondering what actually that flower is. Let's have a look at a tulip. So tulips, again, you can do this exact same thing. What I find is technique does work better with the parrot tulips, and that's what this one is. So a parrot tulip is essentially a double tulip, which just means that it has layers and layers of petals, whereas your traditional tulip is a single petaled flower that holds firm in that lovely tulip, you know, cup shape. It naturally does open flat like a daisy if it's a warm day or if it's a little out of season. But here we will do the reflexing with the parrot. So again, just putting pressure onto that base of the flower, of the petal, and allowing it to flip. Now, if it does flip back, I'm not too concerned about that. As we get going, though some of them will open up a little bit more. Again, just sort of giving that manipulation. These ones have the most, look at that green and lemon. It's just beautiful. Flip those out. These are so fresh, so they are a little bit tricky to keep open. But you'll see their little stamens are just hiding in there. Oh, it's opening up really nicely actually. I won't be able to do that to the very center. So you could take those little stamens out if you wanted to. I quite like them in there, but you could take them out if you didn't want them in there. So there we have it. A beautiful little parrot tulip opened up. Look at that green and yellow. It's gorgeous. Okay, and one more trick that I wanted to show you with your sim carnations. Now, traditionally, and what happens, and you know, this is all very good for us as florists because sims always last so well anyway, but we do often buy them in really tight bud like this. So if you need them for a wedding or an event the following day, it's useless, okay? You've got a tiny bud, great color, potentially, very lovely long-lasting flower, but a flower that it is not of its usual form. And if that's what you're wanting out of the design, you know, a really fluffy head like you usually have with your open sims, then how do we make that happen? Okay, let me show you. So what you need to do first is just hold on to these little calyxes and release the pressure on the petal. So I'm just grabbing those with my fingertips, pulling them down. Doesn't matter if they have a little, you know, rip them a little bit. This is not detrimental to the flower, doesn't stop the flower from lasting any longer or less, but just allows it to release pressure on the petal. All right, once you've done that all the way around, and what I also love about sims is that the petals are really robust. So even if you play with them and you massage them like I'm about to do now, it doesn't damage the petal, it doesn't brown off, it doesn't do anything. So, and then we just start to give it a little fluff. And there we have it. Almost a full opened sim carnation. Okay, so that's a great trick to use for any of your buds like that. I hope you've enjoyed this little floral mini top tips in opening up your petals. Oh, shall we do this little rose as well? I'll do this to finish. Don't be afraid to play with your flowers. Don't be afraid to use their petals as leaves or manipulate the flower in some particular way, because you find you open yourself up to a whole, you know, range of different inspiration and different ways of using your flowers in alternative ways than what you might normally think of them, you know, in that particular state. So yeah, I like to play with my flowers as much as I can, and you know, essentially change their aspect, which is beautiful. Okay, I hope you've enjoyed that, everybody. Drop your comments in the comments box below. If you've got any other tips that you use to open your flowers or manipulate your petals or leaves, please let me know. I'd love to chat with you in there about it. Okay, everyone, bye.